They think Cash, Bongino, Bondi, Pirro, Alina Habba are afraid of what the media is going to say if they arrest a Democrat for breaking the law. You guys have no idea how much fun we're having. This is a dream come true.
All right, friends, brace yourselves. Liberal Fox News commentator Jessica Tarlov, with a simple fact check or two, inadvertently triggered one of her MAGA co-hosts, Jesse Waters, into one of the most openly sadistic and authoritarian meltdowns any of us have ever seen on live TV. What he says and how he says it will shock you even by Fox News standards. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, as you know, we're big fans of Jessica Tarlov here. I think she has the hardest job in mainstream legacy media. Always outnumbered, never outgunned. And she has to put up with all kinds of nonsense from bad faith interlocutors who constantly heckle and interrupt and cherry pick and offer bad faith arguments and, quite frankly, insult her. And she has to take it all with superhuman grace. And she gives it back, but she's held to a higher standard. And she knows it, and that's unfair. But she does it. I don't think anybody else could do this in this particular role. So shout out to her. So here's some clips I want to play. In this one, she talks about Donald Trump's cognitive health and mental fitness, because not enough people are talking about that, given that he is the sitting president and there are serious questions to be posed.
And Donald Trump, I get it, he's very high energy. But when you actually read the transcripts of what he's talking about, he says, oh, Joe Biden's brain is absolute mush. He has stage 9 cancer, which is not real. Oh, by the way, I just aced a cognitive test. He loves bragging about that, man, woman, person, camera, TV. And we are also supposed to believe that he's 6'3" and 224 pounds, which makes him an NFL wide receiver. And we forgot, remember his original doctor who forged that letter about him? Like, come on here.
It's a great point, okay? If you read transcripts or written interviews with Donald Trump, like in Time magazine, it's incoherent, it's stupid. He doesn't have any substantive grasp of domestic, foreign, or economic policy. It's atrocious, okay? But he's seen as more mentally fit than, say, President Biden, because he is of higher energy. There's no question about that. But if you also look at the polls at the time of the 2024 election, even when Biden was the Democratic nominee, a majority of Americans in poll after poll after poll also had questions about Trump's mental health and mental fitness as well. And then when Vice President Kamala Harris became the nominee, a majority of Americans had no question about her and had more questions about Trump. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Donald Trump is not a beacon of mental health or mental fitness. And on top of that, he is deeply, deeply stupid. It'd be bad enough if you're a very smart person in a state of mental decline. Donald Trump is an incredibly stupid, spiteful, ignorant person in a state of mental decline. So they don't like these facts that Jess brings up. Here's where the fact checks start to really piss her MAGA co-hosts, and Jesse Waters in particular, off.
That she was trying to get in there to see what's actually going on at this point. And you say, well, they weren't doing this under the Biden administration. There weren't people with green cards being picked up off the street and held in detention facilities under the Biden administration.
Well,
we weren't
these people
sending
have
people
deportation
to
orders to detain most of them. A lot of them are gang members.
But that's the thing we are finding out. But that's the thing, on an almost daily basis, we are finding out that there are people who are being detained unlawfully, that they should not be in there, that they are innocent. If they came here illegally, that they actually went through the asylum system, that they were due their day in court. And now they're in a detention facility here, or they've been sent to El Salvador. And you can understand why people are skeptical of this and why people are honestly pushing back on certainly this aspect of Donald Trump's immigration policy. And you hear Kristi Noem today in front of the Senate, who can't define what habeas corpus is being pushed and pushed and pushed about what they're doing. And the American public is not standing for it.
It's certainly reflected in the polls. Donald Trump is underwater on most polls on immigration because of his violations of due process and perceived spite and cruelty and violations of the Constitution. And yeah, that moment from a congressional hearing yesterday with Kristi Noem, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, not being able to define habeas corpus, which is basically your right to understand why you are being arrested, basically knowing what the charges are against you so that you might challenge an unlawful arrest or detainment by the federal government. It is a core constitutional principle And it's only been suspended under very specific circumstances about 3 times in this country: the Civil War, the First World War, and the Second World War. And all in these instances with congressional approval. It wasn't just up to the president. And Donald Trump wants to accept that power for himself. So again, great point by Jessica Tarlov. And also say, well, I mean, there were other deportations under the Obama and Biden administrations. Yeah, but they were just more diligent about following the law, which is a meaningful difference. Now, Jess fact checks Jesse Waters. And again, we're saving the meltdown for the last clip because it's really, really unhinged, even by Fox standards. But here's Jess fact checking Jesse Waters.
It was too
How'd
funny.
that happen for you guys? I don't believe you when you say public opinion shifting.
You don't. Yeah, you've made that clear.
Jessica.
Basically, every day now you say you don't believe me, but if you just want to read the data, you don't have to believe me. You can just read what's
How's
printed
this
by
for data?
reputable
Okay?
polling outfits.
You're not allowed to conduct congressional oversight
We are.
like this. No.
We'll get to that in a second. I just want to say, you see how he's like stone-faced? Because again, she's smarter than he is. The facts support her more than they do him. He's totally screwed. He's totally screwed in any confrontation with Jess. And so when she points out, the data's there, the polling's there, he has no refutation of it. He can't say, well, this one, is outside the margin of error, or, this pollster is not particularly reputable. Instead, he says, how's this for data? You can't go into an ICE facility if you're a member of Congress. You can't engage in congressional oversight. Except you can.
Polling outfits.
You're not allowed to conduct congressional oversight like this. No, it doesn't mean you can just barge into any federal facility. Okay, so you're saying House Republicans could just break into the Department of Justice and start rummaging through files looking for the Fast and Furious evidence? Is that okay? We can just break into any federal facility we want and start looking around? That's not how it works, Jessica. I wish you were a lawyer so you would know better. Now,
I wish you were.
They thought they could get away with it because they've been.
So the problem is when it comes to ICE facilities, Jesse Waters is just wrong. And here's the kicker. Donald Trump was the one who signed into law in 2020 the right of members of Congress to enter ICE facilities. They do not need a subpoena. They do not need a warrant. It is a matter of federal law that members of Congress, including Democrats, can go into ICE facilities. ICE security, ICE agents cannot prevent them from entering ICE facilities. It is an open door policy, Democrats or Republicans under Democratic or Republican administrations. I don't know if that applies to the Department of Justice, but it does apply by matter of federal law as signed into law by Donald Trump in 2020 that Congress members can indeed do just that. So here's the meltdown.
Know better. Now,
I wish you were.
They thought they could get away with it because they've been breaking the law and getting away with it for years. That day is over. They think these people at Biden's Justice Department are afraid of a little controversy. They think Cash, Bongino, Bondi, Pirro, Alina Habba are afraid of what the media is going to say if they arrest a Democrat for breaking the law. You guys have no idea how much fun we're having. This is a dream come true. Jessica, you started this. You raided Trump's house. You put shackles on Navarro. People were walking around the Capitol peacefully and patriotically, and they're in prison for 2 years.
You're actually going with January 6th with patriotic and peaceful?
She broke the law on camera with a few forearm shivers. This linebacker really put her weight into it, Jessica. There's nowhere to run and there's nowhere to hide. You're having margaritas with MS-13 and you're trying to bust out illegal alien rapists from prison. And you think the public backs you?
Yeah. That was unhinged even by Fox News standards. Even by Fox News. The insults at her, the revisionist history with January 6th, totally unhinged. Even Jess seems taken aback. Like, really? But there's more.
Having margaritas with MS-13 and you're trying to bust out illegal alien rapists from prison. And you think the public backs you? Trump survived lawfare because he had a lot of cash. Does MacGyver have money? Is she going to ask Democrat donors to pony up for her lawyers to fight federal charges? The donors are tapped out, Jessica. Hakeem's not going to pay for this. She is going to lose, and she's going to lose big.
So there's a MAGA Fox News host who's been so triggered by fact checks about his cult leader by a colleague that he insults her. He engages in revisionist history about January 6th, tacitly concedes that what Trump is doing by charging Democratic politicians as engaging in lawfare, those are his words, but apparently he just believes that because lawfare in his mind was, waged against Trump, the turnabout is fair play. And he's openly delighting in this. He's delighting in attacks on Democratic lawmakers and the violations of due process. He says it. We're having so much fun. We love this. That was one of the most unhinged MAGA meltdowns I've ever seen. And even Jessica Tarlov seemed taken aback by it. And we're what? 4 months in to the Trump administration? There's no telling what Jesse Waters might be saying by the 4th year. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.